Всем привет, да, всем привет, да.
And marine science from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Before joining NASA, Xena did field work in some of the most extreme environments on Earth, including Antarctica, the Canadian high Arctic, and volcanic terrain in Idaho and Hawaii. She was selected as part of NASA's 27 astronaut class known as the Turtles. Xena was originally assigned to Crew-9, but was later reassigned to Command Crew-11 to support changes in station operations. And when she's not training for spaceflight, she enjoys rock climbing, writing poetry, and powerlifting. And there she is with a big smile and a lot of excitement. She shakes hands with some staff there. We mentioned that she was originally assigned the commander of Crew-9. You know this situation well because you were the pilot at that time. You switched to commander. She was reassigned to a later mission. Tell me about that. How did that work, and why was that?
Yeah, you know, so the decision to make that change was motivated by the need to get Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams at home. The Starliner spacecraft, the decision was made to return that without a crew, and so we needed to create space in the Crew-9 vehicle. And so very late, within a month or so of our launch, the decision was made to go from a crew of 4 to a crew of 2. And so then how does that happen? You find out on Friday, this is what's going to happen, and then on Monday, Xena and Stephanie and I are in the simulators trying to figure out, okay, so how does that impact us operationally? And we're working together for the next couple weeks to try to figure out how to do that successfully. And so it's a treat to be here to see Xena getting ready to launch. Just knowing the professional that she is in terms of how we respond to those dynamic situations.
Absolutely, and for those who remember, if you were watching Crew-9, Xena Cardman was our co-host when Nick Hague went up into space and spent the 5 hours documenting his journey. Next up is Michael Fink. He is our Crew-11 pilot. He goes by the call sign Spanky, and there he is. He's a Pennsylvania native and a veteran of 3 previous space flights, spending more than a year of his life in orbit. He first flew to space in 2004 as a flight engineer on Expedition 9, then returned in 2009 to command Expedition 18, where he helped prep the station for future 6-person crews. In 2011, he took part in the final flight of the Space Shuttle Endeavour. What a coincidence. Today he flies Endeavour. That was STS-34 when it was shuttle, and he logged 3 more spacewalks along the way. Fink's also been a key player in NASA's commercial crew efforts, supporting development of the Boeing Starliner. He served as a backup pilot for crew flight test, helping shape Starliner's avionics and software from the ground up. He also co-hosted a launch broadcast. Outside of spaceflight, he's a passionate learner, into geology, astronomy, reading, and languages, and he's conversant in both Japanese and Russian, certainly a skill that will come in handy on the International Space Station and inside his capsule, as he gives us a quick wave.
Yeah, no, Spanky's an unbelievable human. He is so sharp. He's also...
Перед началом ролика я вас прошу, подпишитесь на мой телеграм-канал. Там выходит анонсы трансляции, видео и новости по Старшипу, Falcon 9 и Космосу. Подпишитесь. Можете отсканировать QR-код или ссылку. Ссылкой покажу как. Вот вы скопировали ссылку из видео. Ставите в Google или в Яндекс, как вам удобно, и нажимайте поиск. вас перекидывает на мой телеканал. Подпишитесь, пожалуйста. Я буду очень благодарен. Но мы переходим к ролику.
For this gentleman right here, number 30, that is astronaut Marcos Barrios. He is in the role of astronaut support person, or what we call the ASP. And tell me what his role today will be.
Yeah, so he's the direct support to the crew. Effectively, he's the representative for the Flight Operations Directorate in the astronaut office. He is the person that's going to ride with the crew and the launch pad team all the way to the launch pad. He'll be there at the White Room and be able to observe and make sure that everything is going well, and also, whatever the crew needs, he's there to ensure that they get that last little support up until the hatch closes.
Did you call upon the ASP for any reason in any of your flights?
I'm trying to think
through the archives.
Yeah, no. It was just comforting to know, and so it's like, hey, can you let my wife know, pass a little message, there's some, emotional, psychological support aspects of this more than just the logistical aspects, and it was nice to know there was somebody always there watching your back.
Comforting.
Yep.
It really must be. He's a fellow astronaut. He's in your office. You see him regularly, and especially on the training for the mission, you see him throughout.
Yeah, and for the last 2 weeks, he's been in quarantine with the crew. So you've got very close contact with him, and and you know they're watching and following and tracking everything that's going on with you and giving you what you need.
As we see the crew there, the 4 members of Crew-11, spending their last minutes with many of the individuals who have helped them suit up to this point. They'll depart in their crews to go out to the pad. Let's talk a little bit about how this crew trained extensively for this mission. Nick, talk me through some of the training that we're going to see here shortly that begins with, well, hold on one second. I see a card game starting to form and astronauts gathering around the table. So let's talk about that. This is an important moment and a tradition as well.
Yeah, the astronauts are not anything if they're not superstitious. So this is one of those traditions. The chief of the office, you can see there, Joe Akaba, is dealing out a game. The game changes, you know, every mission. It's really up to the chief of the office to figure out what that game's going to be. But the goal is the same. You go until the commander wins, and you have shaken off all of the bad luck, if you will. Sometimes it can go quick. Sometimes you need a few hands to make sure everything works out.
What game did you play?
We just went straight high card.
High card, yeah, I see that a lot.
High card. It was simple, and it took one hand, and we were ready to go.
And I believe that this deck of cards that they're using is the deck of cards that was designed, has the drawings of Zena Cardman.
Yeah, she's a lot of things. She's also an artist, and so she has a tendency to do up a special deck of cards for crews that she's associated with, and looks like they're down to the final 2.
She keeps winning. Finally, I think she. Nope. She's still. Mike Fink and the commander still holding in.
We may have to shuffle the deck.
Shuffle deck. This may be a first, Nick.
It's the way you always want it. You playing against
down
your
to
boss.
The commander and the chief.
There you go. Now we got it. It's time to go.
Chief of the astronaut, Joe Akaba, finally winning that hand. It took him only about 20 hands. But that's what you want to see. Like you said, this is the point. You want the commander to shake off and burn off all that bad luck. I see another astronaut there in the corner on the left-hand side there.
Yep, Eric Bowe. He is the chief of our Vito office, so basically the astronaut office that owns the crew quarters. All right, they're lining up. They've said their last goodbyes. You see all the ninjas there, the SpaceX support personnel. You know, they're the same ones that have supported you through training and your weeks of training out in Hawthorne.
Speaking of training, let's get back to that training video that we were going to show just a little bit earlier. And talk me through, Nick, what kind of training this is.
Yeah, so here we've got some search and rescue training. And so this is in the neutral buoyancy laboratory at Johnson Space Center. You know, the capsule there, the focus of this training is everything that happens outside the capsule. So we have a generic capsule that you get out of, and then we simulate what you would need to do if you landed in water and needed to be rescued by search and rescue forces.
While somebody sprays you in the face with a hose?
Well, in theory, but that's to simulate the helicopter above head and the prop wash that you would get there from the rescue forces that come out of Det 3 here just at Patrick Space Force Base. And and the search and rescue forces that DoD has stationed around the globe that can respond if needed.
And here, of course, emergency training.
Yeah, on board, you've got to be the jack of all trades, and so you need to be prepared to respond to a medical emergency if you needed to. And so we practice integrated training to respond to somebody that needs help.
All right, our cameras that were in the suit-up room are now repositioning for the astronauts' departure from the astronaut crew quarters. And while they do that, we want to invite you, the audience. Thank you so much for joining us and being a part of today's coverage, the launch of Crew-11 to the International Space Station. We're taking your questions live using the hashtag AskNASA. So if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, X, or Twitch, or streaming, just drop us a question and join the conversation. We're here. Nick's ready. And we've got a few questions that we can take right now. Before we do that, though, check out this view from up high. This is the building and the facility that we were talking about, astronaut crew quarters, inside another building, the operations and checkout building.
Yep, ONC. And so you can see the caravan lined up there, getting ready to the convoy of support the orbit of the station is overhead when you launch, and so it has to be timed down to the second.
And here they are, Crew-11, walking outside for the final time before launch and into a mission years in the making.
Horon countdown. Crew walkout is underway on schedule.
Commander Zena Cardman, pilot Michael Fink, JAXA astronaut Camilla Yui, and Roscosmos's Oleg Platonov. I see some Crew-11 shirts down there. And that's Zena Cardman that we see on the left, Mike Fink on the right, and I've seen Zena do that a number of times, making the heart symbol with her hands. Certainly sending her love to her family who have supported her.
Yeah, you don't get there on your own. None of these individuals have gotten there on their own. It takes the support and love of family and friends and colleagues, and it's a team sport.
You see Mike Fink on the right there, the pilot. He is flying. He is flying along his kit. A Gamasa, which he is, he tells us his wife is of Indian origin. And the Gamasa is used in the state of Assam as kind of a scarf, and so he's taking that with him. He's taken a scarf from his side of the family, that side of the family, for all 4 of his flights. A token certainly of their blessing on this flight today, but also has sentimental purposes.
Yeah, little bits and pieces of home that we can take along with us. And you know, I mentioned that we're big into traditions and rituals and superstitions, and you'll find that lots of crew members have their little token of good luck. You can see them connecting to that cooling air. They've been off of it for a few minutes now, and so a little warm in the Florida air. Last goodbyes as the doors come down, and then immediate family will be able to come up to the windows after they crack them.
Yep, they're going to roll those windows down a little bit and give some last words before launch and before they depart the operations checkout building. Inside Zena's Tesla there, she'll have the flight surgeon going with her.
Yeah, and you can see the lengths we go to preserve that quarantine. You know, you wait till they maintain their distance when they were outside the cars. Once they get inside the cars, there's still some distance. All the personnel that are in the cars with them have also been in quarantine this entire time. So it's not just the crew members that are in quarantine for a couple of weeks. It's a group of several dozen people that have quarantine.
I want to point out Secretary Sean Duffy is here. He is NASA's acting administrator. Also Secretary of Transportation here supporting the launch today, and the crew there at the walkout. He's the gentleman with the glasses and the blue suit coat, which I think is second from the right. There he is. Shot over his shoulder. He just took the reins of NASA just a few weeks ago. He's doing so on an acting basis until administrator can be nominated and then confirmed by Congress. A look inside the window, Zena Cardman giving some waves. And I imagine emotions must be running high.
How can they not? You've been waiting for this moment for a long time, and now you've said your goodbyes. It's tough to say goodbye to family that you're not going to see for a while, but you're also excited to get that car rolling and get on with it.
And indeed, they are off. Crew-11 on the road to launch pad 39A. The Teslas are rolling out from the Neil Armstrong building, escorted by security for the 20-minute drive.
Lyo seals are removed and installation is complete. This is about 10 minutes behind schedule. Again, we have plenty of margin to our green light time. Team is taking up time.
Well, that's a good call out there. We were running 15 minutes behind, but as you heard from the launch director, they have made up 5 minutes, now currently only 10 minutes behind schedule, but they do have margin, so there is the team and the launch team will continue to work this, and the flight crew right now headed out to the pad. Their next stop, a rocket, waiting to launch them into orbit. No pressure, just your average commute today, Nick.
It's not your average commute. You got this police escort with helicopter support, and you get to run every red light and run every stop sign.
Absolutely, it's a beautiful sight there. Of course, I say that just. This is a very special road trip from the astronaut crew quarters out to the launch pad.
Yeah.
They will join up with their spacecraft and rocket. We want to learn about this crew. We want to share their story in their own words. So let's hear from the commander of Crew-11, Zena Cardman, as she shares her path from field science to spaceflight.
I think in a lot of ways science and exploration is just innate to us as human beings. That's why toddlers ask so many why questions. It's just part of who we are. In many ways, I think trying to explore space generates solutions to problems that we didn't even know we had. My name is Zena Cardman, and I am the commander of NASA's SpaceX Crew-11 mission to the International Space Station. I was born in Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, but grew up in Williamsburg, Virginia. I grew up almost like an only child. I have 2 older brothers, but the younger of the 2 actually went off to college when I was 5 years old. And so I learned to play in my backyard a lot, play with friends, use my imagination, and explore the natural world around me. I studied biology as an undergraduate student. This is largely because I had a really excellent high school biology teacher who inspired me to pursue research on my own, even as a high school student. But while I was at college, I also got to know microbiology. I got to know geosciences and chemistry. I wound up doing a lot of research in an oceanography, marine sciences department, and studying in remote locations like Antarctica. I also, while I was an undergraduate, became a creative writing minor, and I've always really valued that chance to study the creative side of my brain and explore our natural world through that side as well. I love being an astronaut right now because there are many pathways to get to the International Space Station. We spend long duration periods, so many months long, living and working on board that space station, and it's really focused on research. A lot of that research is on our home planet, and a lot of that research is on us as human subjects. I'm very excited to be actually the test subject for a lot of the medical research that we're doing on board the ISS. I've signed up for a very large, all-encompassing medical study called CYPHER, and this, I think, is going to be critical as we start thinking about going for longer durations and farther places like the moon and Mars. My role as commander is to bring out the best in these projects from start training until the moment we get back to Earth, and then some. And so I'm always thinking about that larger mission overview and how my roommates are doing and what we can do for each other. Spaceflight, by definition, requires collaboration and requires more than one person, and the chance to be part of something much larger than myself has been humbling and inspiring and deeply fulfilling.
Сейчас будет
Even
меняться
since I was a
экипаж.
child, looking up at the stars, looking at the
Сейчас
cosmos is
завтра
inspiring.
приступается
It helps
экипаж
me answer questions
Crew-11.
like, what are we doing
Послезавтра
here? Who are we? Where are we?
Послезавтра
I don't think we grow if we don't challenge ourselves. I think that's true for myself, it's true for the team, it's true for us as a society and as a species. We have to take some risks, we have to challenge ourselves in order to push ourselves, and I can't wait to see what we discover during my career and for generations to come.
Нам только что рассказали про
Very capable
астронавтку НАСА.
and talented Xena Cardman, the commander
Cardman,
of
да.
Crew-11. Next up, astronaut Michael Fink, a veteran of 3 missions and 4 spacewalks, as he reflects on what keeps him coming back to space.
Human beings, part of our nature, part of who we are, our identity is explorers. Because every time we explore, we improve our lives and our situations. It's just natural. My name is Mike Fink, and I'm the pilot for NASA's SpaceX Crew-11 mission to the International Space Station. I grew up
Сейчас
in
приду.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, home of the mighty Steelers. And it was a great time to grow up, lots of great educational opportunities, a time that was tough economically, but a place where we knew that dreams could come true. When I was like 2 and 3 years old, my parents would wake me up from whatever nap I was taking to watch moon landings. We did many moon landings back in the late 60s and early 70s, and that made a big impression on me. So I knew that back then, even when I was like 3, that I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to go walk on the moon. I wanted to go explore space. So I learned to read so I could read more about space, and the more I read, the more excited I became. When I was in high school, I didn't know what engineering was. I knew what math and science were, physics. I was kind of good at that. Math. I took a leap of faith and went to an engineering program at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, thankfully paid for by an Air Force ROTC scholarship, and then hustling with side gigs on the weekends. And I got to study airplanes and rockets, 2 of my favorite things. So I was able to graduate from MIT with 2 degrees, and then the summer after graduation, I had a really wonderful opportunity to study in Soviet Union. Fortunately, I'd studied Russian language, so I knew enough Russian to go with some colleagues, and we spent the summer at Moscow Aviation Institute studying cosmonautics. And then I spent the next year at Stanford University getting a master's in aeronautics and astronautics. I love the space station. I helped build it. I helped the first modules get ready here on planet Earth. And I've had the joy of living aboard the space station for 2 long-duration missions so far. We've learned from the International Space Station that space is a great place to really understand more about the universe. When we are aboard the International Space Station, we're still gravitationally connected to planet Earth, but we're free-falling, so like we're in microgravity. So you take that big G out of the equation, and then you can find out what's really going on physically. We're also outside the atmosphere, so we can look to the universe beyond us without atmospheric interference. When I'm on a spacewalk, I can look out to the whole universe, and I can see how small our planet is, and how big and wonderful the rest of the universe is, and it's calling to us. We need to explore and go see the whole universe that's out there. Space exploration is something that really speaks to me as a person, right? We all kind of have our passions, and for me, since I was like 2 or 3 years old, I wanted to go to space, explore space, and I've had a chance to do that. Half my life I've been an astronaut. I've really, really enjoyed exploring space.
Pilot Mike Fink and his team, as you just saw them pass the vehicle assembly building where Artemis 2, a moon rocket, is being stacked. Let's hear now from JAXA astronaut Kamiya Yui on returning to the station, representing Japan, and what this mission means to him.
I think people, humankind, has a desire to explore and also expand our area of activities. Space is a great place to explore because Earth is so small. We still have unknown places, but Earth is, generally speaking, so small compared with space. My name is Kamiya Yui. I'm a mission specialist for NASA's SpaceX Crew-11 mission to the International Space Station. I was born in very small village in Nagano Prefecture. So up there, I was able to see very beautiful stars in night skies. When I was a little boy, I did stargazing, and I love the stars. I really want to know everything on our universe, and I want to go everywhere as long as I live. When I was already like 10 years old, I already wanted to become an astronaut or astronaut. I graduated from the National Defense Academy, and after that I entered Japanese Air Force, Japan Air Self-Defense Force, then become a fighter pilot, then a test pilot, and then became an astronaut. We do science in space because we have constant microgravity in the ISS. We cannot achieve that condition on the Earth. Space station actually contributing our knowledge, and also we can produce new materials or medicines in order to make our future brighter. Going to Moon or Mars is very difficult, so we need to test our materials, and ISS is a great test bed. So Crew-11, we are going to have a lot of experiments on ISS, and JAXA especially, we are going to have new cargo vehicle, HDV-X. The vehicle itself is a little bit lighter, but we can carry more stuff to the ISS. 10 years ago, I went to space for the first time. It's changed a lot. And for astronauts, it became much more convenient to live. For example, we didn't have a good place for cooking. Now we have gallery. I was able to see a lot of stars and also beautiful Earth or Moon. This mission inspired me, and I really want to pass that actually inspiration to other people on the ground. ISS is one of the best examples to have a dream and work together and make the dream come true. So if you see ISS in the night sky, please think about your dream, about how to make your dream come true.
And finally, Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov, sharing his thoughts as he prepares for his very first flight to space.
Бесконечный космос открывает бесконечные возможности для человечества, поэтому есть необходимость осваивать Солнечную систему, осваивать просторы за пределами Солнечной системы. А для того, чтобы это сделать в будущем, мы должны закладывать эту базу. My name is Oleg Platonov, and I am a mission specialist for NASA SpaceX Crew-11 mission to the International Space Station. Я родился в большом индустриальном городе в России, в городе Челябинске. Это моя родина. Я занимался в патриотических кружках, связанных с авиацией и космонавтикой, поэтому уже в мое детство я задумывался о космосе. У меня много целей в этом полете. Прежде всего, я хочу полететь на мощной огромной ракете в космос, долететь до Международной космической станции, сесть возле большого иллюминатора на станции, посмотреть на нашу красавицу Землю, и это будет вдохновлять меня работать все лучше и лучше. Мы можем получать новые данные о нашей Земле, о Солнечной системе, о космических лучах, о нашей Вселенной, о жизни микроорганизмов в космосе, о здоровье человека, о получении новых лекарств, о путях улучшения конструктивных материалов и внутренняя потребность человека исследовать все, что находится вокруг него. Хочется узнать все новое, новое и новое, расширяя горизонты своего знания, что границы открыты, что мы можем летать в космос, что мы можем лететь дальше, все дальше и дальше, за пределы нашей Земли, за пределы Солнечной системы. И это будет вдохновлять уже не только нас, но и предыдущие, не предыдущие, а следующие поколения.
And those are all 4 members of Crew-11. If you're just joining us, we are currently T-minus 3 hours and 1 minute until liftoff of those 4 individuals who make up Crew-11. Liftoff to the International Space Station. And this is their ride, a Falcon 9 rocket with a spacecraft called Endeavour sitting at the very top. That crew walkway that you see connecting the launch tower and the rocket Astronauts will soon be walking across that walkway and into their spacecraft to get strapped in to go to space. Right now, they just arrived at the base of the pad, and here is a beautiful view of Launch Pad 39A, which sits just 500, 600 feet away from the edge of the Atlantic Ocean, the beach there, which, as you can see from the calm state of the ocean, we have very light winds, we have sunshine, we have a beautiful day for launch. 90% go is what our launch weather officer is reporting out for weather conditions at the time of liftoff. That time, 12:09 and 24 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. As we gaze up at the sky, seeing just some very thin cirrus clouds up ahead, those not a problem at all when we get ready to launch. We're green across the board right now, running just a little bit behind on the procedures out at the pad. At last check, about 10 minutes, but SpaceX crews are working diligently to catch that time up. And this mission operation timeline, it should be noted, has plenty of margin in it. What you're about to see now is the astronauts walking up to their rocket to get a look at the 1.8 million pounds of thrust that can be generated by this machine as it takes them up into space. That moment coming up in just a few minutes now.
Yeah, they just pulled up to the launch pad. Got about 3 hours until liftoff, and so this is your last bathroom break before you're strapped into a seat and hostage for the next 3 hours. So much needed respite, and then but it's once you ride that elevator up to the top, it's just this stark contrast. You see your rocket up close and personal, and it's this amazing feat of engineering. And then the backdrop is the beautiful Florida coast and the waves crashing onto the beach and a breeze in the face, and it's just a spectacular moment once you get to the top of the launch tower.
You painted quite a word picture there, and we are about to see what that looks like through the eyes of the astronauts as we document their journey up the launch tower, across the walkway, and into their capsule. In the meantime, we want to take some questions that we've been asking and getting and receiving from our audience that's watching around the world. Those who have put their questions forth to our astronaut co-host, Nick Hague, a brigadier general with the Space Force and a NASA astronaut. Austin asks, my son, Knox, age 8, would like to know, how do you get to the space station when it orbits around the Earth so fast? And that is fast.
Advanced team have completed their preps for crew arrival, and crew are heading up the tower on schedule.
That's great news. Sounds like they made up all of that 10 minutes that they were behind. That's a great call out. Yes, station goes 17,500 miles per hour. How are you going to catch up with that?
Yeah, so Knox has got it. He's got his finger right on it. You've got to start going that fast. So the rocket's going to take off going vertical, and it's accelerating. But after a few minutes into flight, the rocket pitches over and is basically going horizontal and continuing to accelerate as it falls back down toward the Earth. And so you're turning all of that fuel, the 1.8 million pounds of thrust that you were talking about, you're turning all of that into velocity. So right now they're going 0 miles per hour. After 9 minutes of lighting that rocket, you're going to be going 17,500 miles per hour. And it's timing. So that's why we're counting down 2 hours and 56 minutes to liftoff to the second, because that's when the Earth rotates underneath the International Space Station's orbital plane, and then that's the moment that we have to take off. So it's an instantaneous launch window.
And that instantaneous launch window at exactly 12:09 and 24 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. You talk about catching up to the ISS, the day that we have and the time gets them there, because we are in the same orbital plane. Our first two astronauts clear from the bio break. Zena Cardman, Mike Fink walking out and getting a look at their rocket, arm in arm.
It's a tall rocket, so it's hard to actually look up that. So you've got to lean back to be able to really see it.
You know what? It looks like Mike Fink, who's on the right-hand side, has a little more lean. What's interesting about him is he's wearing an upgraded suit called an R2. The Xena, let's go, just circling her arms, let's just go.
Yeah.
But he's wearing an upgraded suit that SpaceX says has more mobility and more flexibility in it.
No, he just demonstrated that.
Well,
I
he
guess.
sure did, didn't
Oh,
he?
no, Xena wasn't going to be outdone. No, it's awesome to see them, you know, the excitement, the emotions that you feel as you're getting ready to do something like launch into space. Astronauts are humans. They feel all those same emotions, and so it's fun to see some of the excitement come out and on display.
Spill over right there on the launch pad, because there will be time for things to get serious once they get into the cabin. We turn on the launch escape system and start flowing propellants. But right now, just like you said, a nice moment at the base of the launch pad where those emotions spill out. But talking about the suit, Mike Fink is the only one who is wearing, you can contrast his suit with Xena's. It looks exactly the same, but it's constructed differently. It has a circumventual zipper as opposed to a vertical zipper. So as you know, you got into your spacesuit like a onesie. His spacesuit has been upgraded and redesigned and has that circular zipper that allows 7 inches of flexibility in the suit, so you can adapt it to different body sizes. Whereas the suit that you wore and that Xena is wearing and the rest of the crew has to be tailor-made, and there's not much adjustment on those.
Yeah, and it's also a demanding engineering challenge because it has to be mobile when it's unpressurized, but then when you inflate this, you also have to create a volume where you can be inside of this rigidized suit and be in there comfortably for hours if need be. And so that's a challenge to get a suit that does that. And so this next generation of suit is designed to be able to accommodate that wider range a little easier.
Be good for the astronauts, more comfortable, more flexible, especially as you mentioned when you pressurize it, which I guess is like a giant, just human-sized balloon. This is a great shot from our flight operations team here at Kennedy. You can see the 2 crew members, somewhat small, getting ready to enter the crew access arm. And here they come, Commander Xena Cardman and pilot Mike Fink, getting ready to board Dragon Endeavour, and they are all smiles.
It's awesome to see.
What a beautiful vista behind them as you look out at the views of the spaceport. Mike just gave us the 2 guns. He's a character. Before they get into the spacecraft, some important business at hand here, wanting to make sure that no fog or foreign object debris goes into the spacecraft. So the 2 suit technicians and the closeout crew there, making sure that they take care of that, as well as this tradition right here, Nick.
Yeah. Got to sign that wall. That means you're going. And so every crew that's launched off of commercial crew Dragon launched off of 39A has been able to sign around that NASA mutual. And it's little moments like that that connect you with the legacy of the program and make you feel connected in a way where you understand, you know, hey, I'm taking the next step. And it's an important step. There's a lot of people that got me to the point where I can take this step, and hopefully there's a lot of people that come after me that are able to take steps.
We are in the White Room, and this is on schedule.
You'll hear these audio call-outs from time to time from the crew operations and resource engineer with updates. We'll pause to listen to them. Here are the 2 mission specialists now doing their rocket recline, looking up at their ride.
I think they studied technique from Xena and Mike because they had it down.
Like kind of like a rock and roll kind of pose, didn't it? We'll be riding the other elevator. This, of course, is heritage space shuttle equipment. Those elevators, they used to just have numbers in them, and they're headed up to the 275-foot level, so 28 stories high are the crew on the left, all the way up at the top. The crew at the bottom now, getting ready to ascend that distance. SpaceX changed the buttons inside a little while ago to have the top button for 275 say space. Yeah, did you punch it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool. I would like to go to space. Can you press space? Did your fellow crew member say, can space please? Can you press that button for me?
Make everybody wait uncomfortably.
That is something we would do. So Mike, carefully getting into the spacecraft here, which it takes a bit of physical effort, right? You don't want to touch that seal, because that is what protects you from the hostile environment of space.
Yeah, absolutely. That side hatch is going to stay closed the entire time you're in space. The next time you're going to open that is when you're bobbing around in the Pacific, and the recovery teams open it up to get you out. And of course, we're going to do leak checks on that here in a little bit, and it's important to be able to pass that. So you're hyper vigilant about hardware, and you mentioned that transition to seriousness as you're walking out that gantry. That's when you start to build and flip that switch in your mind of, okay, this is spaceflight hardware. This is the equipment that's going to keep me alive. You become that hyper vigilant person that you need to be.
Last two crew members there, the mission specialists, walking down the crew access arm. And the final two crew members, mission specialists Oleg Platonov and Camilla Ewing, arm in arm, thumbs up, ready to go.
На корейской ракете стоят наши двигатели. Зачем ты сказал? Тоже не помню. Не знаю. Я уже схожу с ума от этого.
Split screen there, looking outside and inside the white room. You mentioned the mission. This crew is leaving the ground with a baseline of at least 6 months, half a year in space, ladies and gentlemen. But they are being considered, and research and study and certification process is underway to expand this to an 8-month increment, 2 months longer. And so the plan is for the commercial crew program, which is here at NASA, is to certify the spacecraft Dragon to be able to support them for a return 8 months later. We know they can live on station for 8 months. We've had astronauts live there for a year. But that is a long duration space flight. And so the hope is that they certify them for 8 months and they can return 8 months later, hoping to get it by October.
Yeah, it's 6 flights of Endeavor, and there's a lot of things that need to be looked into. From a crew perspective, the mindset has to be, I'm going for 8 months. And then if it ends up not turning out that way, then that's a pleasant surprise, or unfortunate, depending on your perspective at the moment, because every day in space is a gift. No, it'll be exciting for them. And like you said, we've had people up there. One of my crew members, Christina Cook, was up there a year. She launched with me on MS-12. So we know how to do it, and we know how to keep people healthy when they stay up there that long. It really comes down to expectations and expectation management with crew members as well as families. as well as the entire team that has to support this particular mission, because it's not just the crew and the families, but that entire support network is on call while they're on orbit.
That's an interesting point to think about. I hadn't thought about just how that kind of puts the family, as you mentioned, on call as they're that entire time. They have the moments where they get to connect with you via video phone and high-speed connection, but as long as you're up there, that they know that you're not here on Earth. You're in space, and you and your crew are being supported by this international laboratory, which has been doing it for 25 years come November 2nd. You're watching live launch coverage of NASA and SpaceX's Crew-11 launch to the International Space Station. I'm Daryl Nail, and I'm joined by NASA astronaut and Brigadier General Nick Hague. We've counted down about an hour and 20 minutes so far, and we're cruising to liftoff. T-minus 2 hours and 44 minutes. T0 is 12:09 p.m. Eastern Time. A look at the signatures on the wall inside the White Room. And I would love to see if we can make out my co-host's signature there.
You won't. You won't.
No?
I launched off Slick 40 over at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
Indeed you did.
Yeah, so there's two lonely signatures over there on Space Launch Complex 40 right now.
That's right, and that was a late change, and my apologies for that, because you were initially supposed to launch off of 39.
Yes, it was. We were the first to launch off. We were actually the first humans to launch off of that launch complex. The certification process, you mentioned the certification process for extending the life of Endeavour. Same kind of thing happens for the ground station as the launch complexes, and they were able to get that process done in time to support us to be able to launch off there. So it was a thrill to be able to be a member of the Space Force and launch off of a Space Force launch complex.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. And you're the only two signatures.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we can fix that. Hopefully we can fix that.
Yes, absolutely. SpaceX has two launch pads here that are human-rated for spaceflight, and that gives them great redundancy, great capability as well for NASA to have access to. Right now, the teams are working in parallel. The crew members inside Dragon getting settled into their seats that they will ride up into space, while outside, the closeout crew handles the matter of making sure that the seal's integrity around the side hatch is maintained. And then once they get them all settled and finish up their work inside with the crew, they'll depart. You can see number 22 still inside. The support crew will come out of the capsule, and they'll shut that hatch that you see right there, that side hatch. As Nick mentioned, when that is shut and they've secured it, they will leak test it to make sure it can withstand the rigors of the harsh environments of space. But in order to see and communicate with the crew that's inside, both of the closeout crew members here taking a knee.
Yeah, you can see a couple of the ninjas inside. They're, principally getting everybody strapped in nice and snug. Then they're also providing them with some of their personal equipment. You see the white satchels that they'll wear on their thigh as a place to put their tablet, as well as some writing utensils and some other things that they may need in terms of personal gear. And make sure everything's situated, because once you're strapped in, they don't want you coming out of those straps until you're floating around.
Certainly want all that in order and in place for The very exciting ride up into space, but it's also going to be a long one, Nick. This is a 38.8-hour phasing, which means from the time that they lift off to the time that they dock to the International Space Station, almost 40 hours in space. This is the longest ride to space so far for NASA's commercial crew program, flying the Dragon, which we are now in our 12th flight, Crew-11, the 11th operational mission, but we have to include Demo 2, which was the first test flight.
Yeah, 40 hours is a long time. So it only takes, less than 10 minutes to get to space. And then, this gets back to the question before of how do you catch up to the space station? Well, we phasing is the word that we use, but essentially in different orbital altitudes you move different speeds, and so we adjust the orbital altitude of the Dragon capsule to allow it to catch up to the space station, and in this case it's going to take 40 hours to do. Most of that time, a few minutes after they have arrived on orbit, they're going to be able to take their spacesuits off, and then essentially you're camping out inside the Dragon capsule, waiting for those 40 hours to elapse so that you can dock and open the hatch and get to work.
That's astronaut Nick Hague, commander of Crew-9, flew just a couple missions ago for NASA. Also flew...
Dragon, ready for tom checks.
SpaceX copies, we are configured, so seat 1, seat 2, seat 3, seat 4, com check.
Seat 1, loud and clear.
Они тестируют связь.
2, loud and clear.
3, loud and clear. Seat 4, loud and clear.
Core, loud and clear. Umbilical com check complete. Report when ready for seat rotation.
So you just heard from each one of the crew members on board as they went through all of their communications with the Crew Operations and Resource Engineer, otherwise known as the Core. You heard him communicating with each one of the crew members just now. As I was mentioning, Nick Hague flew 2 Soyuzes to space. The first one didn't make it to station. Was an in-flight abort. Came back down to the ground. You flew again the second time. On MS-12, you did make it to station. We are getting ready to do the suit leak checks. But first, we want to take some social questions as we go along. Nick Hague is our astronaut expert at the ready. If you want to submit a question, please do. We would love to hear from you. Just use hashtag AskNASA on the platforms that we have on Facebook, X, YouTube, and Twitch. And we have a question in the lower right hand of your screen. Yes, Benny asks, what was the hardest part in becoming an astronaut?
I think that's a different answer depending on which astronaut you ask. There's so many things that we have to train to be able to do, whether that's operate high-performance jets, aircraft, spacecraft, or learn the engineering behind all the systems on board of those that keep us alive, to the medical support that you might need to be able to provide because you need to be the doctor for the crew. But I think for me, the single most challenging aspect was learning a second language at the age of 38. Getting selected, and the first day on the job, I started my Russian language training because to be on board the space station, you have to be able to speak English and Russian, regardless of where you come from. So, Kimya, native Japanese, but he has to be able to speak English and Russian. And so it's amazing how difficult it is if you didn't grow up learning a second language very young, how hard it is to rewire your brain late in life.
Dragon, ready for seat rotation.
Copy, ready for seat rotation. All other teams are ready, so we will be initiating seat rotation now.
Copy.
And so you're about to see those seats articulate upwards. This is their entry position, but they will now be articulated into launch position so that they are resting on their backs and able to see those screens just above them, just above the heads of the pilot and commander. You can see Zena Carbon currently touching some of the buttons in the screen on just ahead of her, the heads-up display. And there they go, getting some waves from the camera person who is on the launch tower right before they back out and shut the hatch. Boots up.
Yep, that position is important, because when you're launching, you want to make sure that that G-force is coming through your chest, because it's easier for your body to handle. But then when you're landing and the impact of landing, you want to make sure that you're in that more upright orientation. It's all for crew safety. It does allow them to see the displays better.
Dragon SpaceX seats are in the launch position. With that, you are go for section 2, suit leak check preparation.
And now that they can see those displays better, they can start operating them. And so Zena's going to step through suit leak checks here with the rest of the crew.
I did not know that they articulated them down for re-entry.
Yeah, after the main chute's open, then they will they rotate down.
How about that?
Actually, it's once you come back through a certain G level on re-entry, that's the trigger, and then they rotate, and then you
automatically come down?
Yeah, you get chutes and everything else.
Now that we have Crew-11 seated inside of the spacecraft, we want to go back and hear the story of your first spaceflight, Nick, which was, to say the least, an adventurous one. One that did not end with you getting to the International Space Station, but rather an in-flight abort. This helps us underscore just how important safety is in this moment as the astronauts prepare. So here you are, a number of years ago, getting ready to launch for MS-10, giving a wave goodbye. Talk me through your first space flight.
Yeah, you know, when I look at this picture, it almost snaps me straight back. It's a beautiful fall day in the steppes of Kazakhstan. You know, we're on, you know, the same launch pad there that Yuri Gagarin launched into space on. And so you feel that deep connection, that legacy I talked about, the human exploration of space. And so we're getting ready to walk up to the elevator. There's a few stairs. It's a turn back photo op and wave to the management that's taken you all the way up to the base of the rocket that's sitting there, that's white with frost because it's full of rocket fuel at that point, and you're on your way. So I mean, it's everything you dream of. It's at that point I've spent 40 plus years dreaming about that day happening, and then the liftoff.
And
copy, tear complete. You have a go for section 3 suit leak check.
So as we listen in, the suit leak
Check
checks,
to go for section 3.
they will pressurize the suits of the crew inside the cabin. Very important matter. As you're lifting off here, what are you feeling?
You know, in many respects, the feeling of the Soyuz lifting off the launch pad is very similar to Dragon. The rockets are about the same size. You feel just kind of this slowly increasing pressure of being pushed down into your seat. The rumble and the kind of the subtle vibration as you're going, but it's pretty smooth. You know, I'd liken it to being in an electric car and somebody just kind of smashing the accelerator, pushing you into your seat, and you're off. And it was, you know, a smooth ride for the first 2 minutes leading up to the point where those external boosters you see on the base of the rocket are empty, and then they need to separate from the rocket.
And that's what led to this moment right here, Nick, when those boosters didn't do quite what they were supposed to.
Yeah, one of them didn't. They're supposed to propel themselves away from the center, the core stage. One of them didn't do that and actually impaled the core stage, caused it to essentially disintegrate in that split second. So we're 30 miles above the Earth, going 4,000 miles an hour, kind of pointed straight up. As that happens, it tilts us a little bit, and in that second in which all that occurs, the launch escape system pulls us, my crewmate Alexeyev Chinin, the commander on the mission, and I to safety.
And that shot is the shot before. If we look back to that one, it's blurry because that's a screenshot from just how violently things were shaking.
Yeah, there was in that instant, the indications to us are a flashing red light, a sign of alarms going off, and then there's a little red indicator that says there's a rocket emergency, and then you're also being shaken kind of side to side for a second or so. And then it's peaceful, because at that point we're going so fast, we've come off, we're just kind of coasting uphill in this slow tumble to the edge of space. And I can remember looking out as we got to the top of that trajectory and seeing the dark black of space and the curve of the Earth below, and thinking to myself, well, we're not going to get there today.
Just not going to make it.
Yeah. And so, in the moment, you have those little moments where the reality of the situation pops out. Now it's, it starts to set in, okay, what do I need to do to survive? And that's get back into the procedures.
Right. And so that view we saw from looking up in the sky, your rocket is coming apart. You no longer can ride that into space. It's done. Now you're on the emergency systems. And you come down back to Earth. And that's you on the right, in the middle, right middle, hugging your wife.
Yeah.
And that looks like quite the deep embrace.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the moment when you're responding, the training kicks in, and you're able to compartmentalize all of the emotion of the situation. It's in the aftermath of that. That's less than 6 hours after we had launched. That we're back at the aerodrome there, and that's when the emotions, that's, you're human, that's when it comes out. And Katie had witnessed all of that and gone through that roller coaster ride at the same time, along with my kids and my family that were all there, with less information than I had, because I was going through it. There was probably 20 minutes where she didn't know what the outcome was.
Dragon, we see the same. Closeout team will perform final closeout steps and then exit the capsule. Proceed to section 4, side hatch closed. Port when ready to close hatch.
And just a quick
The
note.
Southeast, proceeding section 4, Wilco.
We are still tracking the operations inside the Dragon Endeavor that you see there. They are doing checkouts of the suits, pressurizing them, getting ready for launch. As we listen to a very important story that Nick Hague just told us about surviving an in-flight anomaly where his rocket came apart, but the launch escape system for Soyuz saved his life and the life of his crewmate and brought them back to their families.
Yeah, the way you phrase that's important. The launch escape system, the engineers that developed the escape system, the people in the factory that assembled it, all of these people that I don't get to meet or would not normally get to meet. The space program, the human exploration of space, is built on trust. Trusting that everybody who's got a job is committed to being perfect in that job. And it's not just the crew that rides on top of the capsule, but it's everybody. And you never know when your decision, your responsibility, your action is going to be the one that saves the day.
Absolutely. And that's why you often hear so many times the engineers uttering how important it is to get the job right, to do it right. to make sure everything is ready for launch. And this crew has their launch escape system. We will go through their checks, we'll check the health of it, and we'll also arm it for launch.
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check.
SpaceX, Dragon, loud and clear.
Core has you loud and clear. Teacher's comm check is complete. Stand by for comm checks with DC, MD, and LD in the launch configuration.
Dragon, DC on countdown 1, comm check.
DC, Dragon, loud and clear.
DC loud and clear. Stand by for comm checks with MD.
Dragon, MD on countdown 1, comm check.
MD, Dragon, loud and clear.
MD loud and clear as well. Stand by for comm check over Dragon to ground.
You're listening to communication
Dragon,
checks
MD on Dragon to ground, comm check.
through each of the 3 paths to this spacecraft.
MD, Dragon, loud and clear.
MD loud and clear. Stand by for comm checks with LD.
Dragon, LD on countdown 1 with a comm check.
LD, Dragon, loud and clear.
LD loud and clear. Stand by for comm check on Dragon to ground. Dragon, LD, Dragon to ground, comm check.
LD, Dragon, loud and clear.
LD loud and clear.
Dragon, SpaceX, launch configuration, comm checks are complete.
Dragon copy, and crew are ready for side hatch closure.
Copy, crew readiness for side hatch closure. Closeout team is taking final steps in prep for that closure, so stand by for that in a few minutes. The vehicle will then transition to pad hatch close. Ensure all items are secure from now through launch.
Dragon copies, Wilco.
Those communication checks, Nick, were really important for each of the crew members to be able to speak to some very important members of the launch team.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so you've got the comm checks you've been hearing with Core, which is really the voice from the SpaceX control room to Dragon. But you've also got the launch director, the mission director in there as well. And then it gets more complex because you're checking multiple different ways that you're going to be able to get the communications there, whether going direct from ground to Dragon or whether using the TDRS relay satellites. So communications critical, being able to verbally talk, but then the other connection that you can't forget about is the telemetry and the vehicle communication down to the ground. Dragon is a highly autonomous vehicle and has a pretty close couple with mission control on the ground to be able to monitor all of that automation.
You're watching launch coverage of NASA and SpaceX's Crew-11 mission to the International Space Station. Nick Hague, our astronaut co-host today, walking you through the operations. Just told a very powerful and moving story about his first launch, which ended with a flight abort, but brought him and his crew members safely to the ground, back to his family. He launched again on MS-12, but that story brought forth a question on social that we want to take now. We're taking your questions live and bringing them to Nick, who's answering them as we go. So Oscar asks, Nick, you're one of the very few people in history who have ever aborted in flight. How did it feel as it happened?
Yeah. Oscar, we spend so much time training for what to do when things go wrong. I'd venture that we spend about 95% of our training focused on what to do in the event that something goes wrong. And so the situation of the abort is one that Alexei and I performed in the simulator about 8 months before we launched and experienced it. And so there's the one time in the sim. It's a very short simulation. The actual flight was less than 20 minutes. The simulation's less than 20 minutes. But we had run those procedures. And the sum total of all of that training is that you get very disciplined at running procedures because you know that those procedures are the things that are going to keep you safe when things don't go right. So in the moment, there is the, you know, the oh boy moment when it's happening. The alarm's going off, the lights flashing, everything's kind of shaking, and it takes you a second or two to fully process exactly what's happening. And then there's I had the realization that, if this was going to be a really bad day, it would have happened, so I've got a chance. So the best way to protect Alexei and I is for both of us to do our procedures and focus on those. And so you compartmentalize all of those emotions. You kind of set those to the side and you focus on doing your job. And so we run through the procedures and we talk with Mission Control in Moscow, and surprisingly, I spent so much time in Star City training. That Russian that I was talking about being painful to learn, that is just naturally coming out because all of our communications are in Russian. And then it's not until you touch the ground, the search and rescue forces come and extract you. They were there within like 10 minutes. They come and extract us and pull us out into the parachutes. It's at that moment when your body can relax, you can stop focusing on all the things you need to do to be safe because you know you're safe, and then that's when shock kind of rolls over you. And your body just tries to process everything that happened. We're human. You can't bottle that stuff up forever. And so it was you could hear the waver in my voice when I called Katie and on the satellite phone and said, "Hey, I'm okay." I actually had to leave a voicemail because she had her phone off.
Oh no.
But we have that voicemail, and I've been able to listen to it, and it's pretty amazing.
Wow. Thank you, Oscar, so much for that question. And thank you, Nick, for that beautiful answer. We are continuing to document Crew-11's steps through their mission operational timelines, getting ready for launch. You saw this closeout crew remove a protective cover around the seal. Now they are examining that seal and documenting, taking pictures of it, because once they shut that door, it needs to be as airtight as they can possibly get it, since you're going into the vacuum of space and it needs to protect all 4 crew members inside.
Yeah, it doesn't. A single strand of hair across the seal can be enough to cause it to fail the leak check. So it's got to be complete pristine. It's got to be pristine.
And we've had that happen in previous missions where exactly just that. A hair ended up on the seal, and once they did the pressure check, they saw it, opened it back up, found it, removed it, and then resealed it, and they were good to go for launch. And so there's a bit of margin in this countdown, and we're in that kind of flexible time right now where they have time to work through methodically on this procedure. Nick, we don't want to end the story with the end of MS-10. We want to go to MS-12, which was the next space flight, your next launch. Here you are now with a crew of 3. You said, "I'm going back."
Yeah. That's the job. I mean, we explore because it's important, and so that doesn't change launch to launch to launch. The mindset to get back on top of the rocket isn't any different the first time than it is the second time, than it is the third time. It's, why am I willing to accept this risk? Why is my family willing to accept this risk? And it's because what we're doing up there is so important. The scientific discovery, learning about the human body and how we interact with the environment around us, and more about the universe around us, that's just so important. And so that's why you do it. And so this time, night launch. So I got a day launch and a night launch, a twofer. And
lucky you.
It was beautiful. And you saw Christina had joined. She was going up for a year-long mission. And Alexei and I gave it another shot, and it was flawless all the way to docking. spectacular flight.
And this was in 2019.
2019.
Just a little less than a year after MS-10 in October of 2018.
Yeah, 5 months. So we had the launch. So we had our launch abort, and then 2 months later, MS-11 launched. And they had fixed the problem. They diagnosed what the problem was with the rockets, and then 5 months later we were on board. It takes a lot to keep the station going. We've been doing it for 25 years, and so that drumbeat of rotations of crews has to keep going.
Absolutely, and you fulfilled your role, and that photo we just saw was the completion of a successful mission to the International Space Station. When you returned from space and were being brought out of that capsule.
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic because where our abort landed was in the normal landing zone. We landed there almost a year to the day later in that landing zone, and so it was the culmination of a pretty interesting year, needless to say.
How about that? Because you look around, right, and go, I remember this place. But it felt a lot different.
Yes, it's a time. As a veteran that's done a suborbital flight as well as
Извините,
an orbital
простите,
flight,
но
it's all good.
что-то какая-то проблема появилась. Извините, какая-то проблема.
Space more
Да.
accessible to more people.
Да.
And so,
Трансляция
finally,
завершилась, я не знаю почему.
your most recent mission, 2024, in September of that year, not too long ago,
Space
you launched back into space on Crew-9. This, of course, launched from right here on the Space Coast, Launch Complex 40, as you mentioned, the first
Один честный человек все продолжал.
but there was only 2 of you. And we've talked about this. This was a crew of 2 for a
10
special reason.
просмотров,
You
спасибо,
had
кто смотрит на
an important
трансляцию, за
mission
10 просмотров.
for Crew.
Yeah,
Спасибо
the
вам
seat 1 and
еще
4
за 4
there you can see
просмотра.
are empty on the uphill
Подписывайтесь на мой
portion.
телеграм-канал, пожалуйста.
And that was to accommodate
Я очень сильно буду рад.
Butch and Sunny coming back home with Alex and I 6 months later. So we were launching on a normal rotational mission to the station and planning to do our 6-month long duration mission. And job 1, as soon as we opened that hatch, was integrating Butch and Sunny into the Crew-9 crew, and then continuing to do that research mission.
Очень на какой миссии летал?
There you are lifting off.
Летал на миссии
I gotta say,
Crew-9.
the weather today is
Да.
so much better than what back then. We had a hurricane blow through, but you're also sad to close the hatch and to leave that environment up there that's just so special. You never know when you're going to get back, if you're ever going to get back, because everybody's future is, you just don't know, and it is just so. It just has such a huge effect on everything that you do, and you bring that back, and so missing out on being able to float around or look out the window, or in some respects, it's see all of my my crewmates. So I haven't seen Alex since right after landing. I haven't seen Alexei and Oleg since the station, and so you feel this sense of time passing and the moment ending.
We are T-minus 2 hours and 10 minutes until liftoff of Crew-11, NASA and SpaceX's rotational mission to the International Space Station. In a little less than an hour, we are going to expand coverage with our friends from SpaceX joining our launch broadcast, and we'll come up on camera so you can see us, see Nick live in the flesh here as he steps us through the operations today all the way to liftoff and into orbit. A note about the weather. The launch team and the launch weather officer are discussing conditions both here and along the ascent corridor. Winds are forecast to be picking up around 14 knots and then peaking to 18 knots at launch time. So that is something that they're going to evaluate closely. The winds have to be within a certain range before they'll go forward with prop load, which of course is a very careful and delicate operation. It's automated for SpaceX, but when you start loading a rocket with propellant, a lot of care has to be given to external influences like the weather.
Dragon SpaceX, we're commencing health check for launch escape system. You can expect a momentary flight computer state change, followed by transition back to pad hatch closed.
Dragon copies.
And so you mentioned the weather, and it gets right to the point that they're making here is the weather's got to be good so that we know that the launch escape system can be used, so we can arm that before we start loading that propellant. So at the moment we start loading all this dangerous stuff onto the rocket, we make sure that the crew has got a way to get out of there in a heartbeat if they need to. And onshore winds may seem like, you know, not a big deal, but if you're coming down under a parachute on a capsule that's not supposed to land on land, you want to make sure that you don't drift onto the land. And so that's why they watch all of those.
Critically important, those winds. And so the teams will be evaluating this again just before prop load. Of course, this is a forecast that we see right now, but what actually happens to the winds in the moment that we're getting ready to launch, getting ready to arm the escape system, rather, and then load props could be different. So that's why we watch it in real time. Winds are notably fickle here at the spaceport because of what Nick just said. That sea breeze, it gets kicking up. You can see our flag out by the launch clock right now, starting to blow just a little bit. So we'll be monitoring that throughout the rest of the countdown going into T-minus 50 minutes.
Yeah, that's a beautiful sight though, isn't it?
It is indeed. What has shaped up to be a beautiful day for launch so far. If you're just joining us, we'd like to introduce you to the crew. Crew-11 going into space today consists of the commander, NASA astronaut Zena Cardman. She holds a Master of Science in Marine Sciences from UNC Chapel Hill. Cardman has experience with NASA research in the Canadian High Arctic and has supported real-time station operations and lunar surface exploration planning. She also likes rock climbing and powerlifting in her free time. She trained for Crew-11 as the commander, but was reassigned to Crew-11 and is now the commander here. And she has, by virtue of all that training, a lot of training for a first-time flyer.
She is well prepared. And, you know, she's been well prepared from day one. She had done a backup flow prior to the Crew-9 assignment. But it was a thrill to be able to go through the you know, spend the roughly 18 months leading up to the Crew-9 launch, being able to train side by side with her. She's a phenomenal crewmate.
Your Crew-11 pilot is NASA astronaut Michael Fink, a veteran of 3 space flights. Fink has completed 9 spacewalks, totaling 48 hours and 37 minutes of EVA time, and has spent 382 days in space. Fink is a certified pilot for Boeing Starliner and SpaceX Crew Dragon, as well as a co-pilot, flight engineer on Soyuz, and a mission specialist on the Space Shuttle. Fink enjoys spending time with his family, traveling, geology, and learning new languages. Unlike you, Nick. Michael Fink loves to learn himself a new language.
We are completely different in that regard. No, actually, you know, learning a new language opens up your appreciation for their culture and gives you a deeper understanding. And so even though it was one of the most difficult aspects of training, it's also been one of the most rewarding.
I wanted so badly to learn a second language. I studied French. It did not stick, but I certainly appreciate those who can speak another language. But thank goodness for smartphones and apps that now translate for you. So I feel like I'm missing out on less.
Yeah.
Our mission specialists, let's get to them. JAXA astronaut Kimiya Yui is Crew-11 mission specialist number 1 with 142 days in space. This will be Yui's second trip to the space station. Yui flew as a flight engineer for Expedition 4445 and became the first Japanese astronaut to capture JAXA's H-2 transfer vehicle in November 2016. Yui was assigned as chief of the JAXA astronaut group.
Yeah, and he had to learn English and Russian in order to fly to the station. So I guess this is the note that you need to give to all the kids that are listening. I want to grow up and be an astronaut. Probably the one thing you absolutely need to do is know 2 languages or more.
Well, that takes me out.
I said kids, Daryl.
Okay. So you're saying there's still a chance? Mission specialist number 2 is Oleg Platonov. The Crew-11 mission specialist is Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov. This will be his first trip to the International Space Station. He graduated from the Krasnodar Higher Military Aviation School of Pilots with a degree in engineering and military rank of lieutenant. He is married with 1 child and apparently is the comedian of the group.
I think they all have a pretty good sense of humor.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. And you see that expressed, even as they were just making their way out to the pad and up into the capsule. Lots of smiles, lots of laughter.
We did see that as they were coming across the crew access arm earlier as they made their way into the spacecraft. T-minus 2 hours and 3 minutes and counting until liftoff of Crew-11.
It's a long wait. Now they're strapped in and there's not much to do. And so you have time to reflect and think about all those, I guarantee you they're thinking about the things they need to do, but they're also thinking about all the people that helped them get into that seat. The training teams, the ops teams, everybody that supported them along the way. Their families, their friends, the ones that have been the support network to get them to this day.
As Crew-11 reflects, we want to reflect on their destination, the International Space Station, one of the most extraordinary labs ever built. Here's a closer look now at how science happening up there in their destination in low Earth orbit is improving life for all of us down here on Earth.
The International Space Station isn't just a symbol. It's a powerhouse of cutting-edge science, constantly revealing secrets that defy Earth's limitations and drive us farther into the cosmos.
Our mission is research and science. We have experiments mounted on the outside of the station that are looking at Earth. We study our own bodies and how they react to space, to weightlessness, to radiation. And that helps not only us go on further in future missions, but also helps for medical research back home. And then we study lots of different things as well, like materials, combustion, all sorts of things that help us understand life back on Earth.
Yeah!
Microgravity doesn't play by the rules. It flips them upside down, transforming how liquids flow, how flames burn, and unraveling biological mysteries before our eyes.
I saw some heart tissues beating in space, and it was incredible.
So Tom, we see that top one beating. Looks like happy heart cells.
But we're not just along for the ride. We're explorers, diving headfirst into the challenge and harnessing the power of this unparalleled platform, just as we have been for decades. We're on a relentless quest for answers, seeking to understand the intricate workings of the human body in space and ensuring future crews stay safe on their daring journeys beyond Earth's orbit.
The human aspect of human space exploration is always going to be very important for decades to come.
And when it comes to technology, we're not waiting around. We're discovering new ways to grow crops in harsh environments and engineering innovations to tackle Earth's greatest challenges.
We have amazing technology that allows us to recycle water and create water for us to drink. It's delicious.
Microgravity isn't just a curiosity, it's a game changer in the fight against diseases back on Earth, paving the way for breakthroughs that benefit us all and enabling new economic opportunities in space.
Welcome, Axiom 3, on board the International Space Station.
From our vantage point more than 200 miles above Earth, we are not just spectators. We're gaining unprecedented insights into the world we call home, and we're sharing our findings openly. We're not just achieving results today, we're sparking inspiration in future generations of explorers and embracing the power of global collaboration as we reach for the stars.
What was your favorite experiment on the International Space Station?
Toby, great question. My favorite experiment was the one that I got to eat. It was us growing hatch chili peppers in our plant habitat.
Station Huntsville on 2, we have video in Node 1. Look at those chili peppers.
And as we soar through space at 17,500 miles per hour, each moment is a step closer to unlocking the mysteries of our Earth, our universe, and propelling our pioneering spirit even farther into space. So come along for the ride aboard the International Space Station.
Nick, you spent more than a year cumulatively of time on that International Space Station. When you think back to the things that you work on, what comes to your mind as some of your favorite stuff?
Yeah, there's such a variety up there. Growing stem cells, doing gene editing, working with materials, trying to extrude fiber optics or 3D printing metal or organic tissue, trying to print organs, growing lots of different types of food, whether it's tomatoes or algae or lettuce. It's so fun to be in the middle of all of that, and it's hard to pick a favorite out of all of that, but it's fascinating. And what's been fun is looking from 2019, when I did my first expedition, to the most recent expedition, being able to see the growth in complexity of the science that we're able to do up there. When you first start doing things, you're like, I don't even know if it's going to work. And once we start to figure out and adjust, now we're able to start to really reap the rewards of all of that effort.
That's a great point, because when I look at the science that's going aboard this mission, this is pretty advanced stuff. You talked about, stem cells in the early going when you were working with them on station. Now they're trying to figure out how to mass produce stem cells, which can be made at a higher quality and higher yield in microgravity, the environment that the International Space Station provides for scientists that you can't replicate on the ground.
Yeah, we go there to ask questions that we don't know the answer to. And then when we find that answer, it usually leads to a couple more questions. But that's the nature of discovery. That's the nature of building knowledge. And as we gain this knowledge, we start to identify these areas where, hey, this is something that is unique to space that'll bring benefit back down to Earth for everybody. And then we can really start to exploit that.
That is exciting, because in the end, that's what it's for, right? It is not only to advance exploration goals, but also to make life better here on Earth. And the International Space Station in its 25 years has certainly done that. An update as you watch our operations here. We have a little bit of a lull as the closeout crew in the White Room on top of the launch tower seals up the hatch to the Endeavour spacecraft. That side hatch is how the crew of 4 made their way into the capsule, and now it is the responsibility of the team that you see here to make sure that that door has a good seal, a good tight seal, before it starts to fly hundreds of miles per hour, thousands of miles per hour, and then tens of thousands of miles per hour. So this is a very important job.
Yeah, you're through that hundreds pretty fast.
What's the ride like on the Dragon specifically at liftoff?
It's smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels so smooth.
Liquid propellant?
Yeah, you know, so you don't, like, I never got a chance to fly on the shuttle, but the shuttle was rough because of the solid rocket boosters.
That's what everybody said.
You
yeah.
don't have that, and the thrust level is a little slower here, so it also doesn't, like, throw you off the pad. It's a slow acceleration, but it's a constant increase in that acceleration that just keeps going until you get to, you know, kind of the end of first stage. It's just super smooth. And then when the first stage is done, it separates, and then there's 5 seconds or so before you light the second stage engine, the upper stage, and so you're weightless. And that was completely different than Soyuz, because Soyuz hot stages, and so you never have that period of weightlessness. And so you spend 5 seconds and you're like, okay, we're weightless. I'm ready for it to light. I want to make sure we get there. And then it continues on. And so it's a smooth ride all the way up.
The second stage is a kicker, though, isn't it?
It all starts slow. So the G
ramps
starts
up?
and then it slowly ramps up. So there's not too many jarring moments flying on a Dragon.
We were talking earlier about the science. Let's dive into what Crew-11 will be doing. They will be busy at T-minus 1 hour and 53 minutes until they lift off to get there. We have 2 astronauts and 1 cosmonaut inside Crew-11 right now. Inside of Dragon Endeavour, I should say, on top of a Falcon 9 rocket from Launch Pad 39A here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. This crew, of course, as you see them right here, headed to the International Space Station to help maintain this very special orbiting lab. Once on board the International Space Station, Crew-11 will become members of Expedition 73-74. They will conduct research to develop the production of nutrients in space, such as vitamins. They will also evaluate mass-producing human-induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPSCs, to develop cell-based therapies for diseases such as cancer, as well as a possible alternative to antibiotics. Crew-11 will test using phage therapy to treat bacterial infections. And these things are important, and you were telling me this yesterday when we were going over the show and prepping for the show, and I asked you, is an infection or a cut worse in space than it is on ground? And you said yes.
Yeah, you know, our immune systems are suppressed. They don't operate as efficiently in space as they do on the ground. You know, and one of the experiments that I was a subject for up there, and it's an ongoing experiment, is looking at the immune system and just trying to figure out why does it get suppressed like that. But yeah, if you cut yourself and it gets infected up there, it takes longer to heal. So don't cut yourself when you're in space.
I just wrote that down as my notes for when I fly
tip.
one day.
Yes. Pro tip.
Pro tip. Yeah, and if you do, and you were explaining yesterday, if you do cut yourself, it's not like, you know, the blood goes out into space. It holds to your finger because of surface tension. Right?
Yeah, it does. Water does amazing things up there.
Just weird stuff.
If you get water, you know, it floats, and we see all these videos where it's floating as a bubble inside, you know, in front of them. But if you put your finger into that, it just kind of adheres to the surface of your hand and kind of crawls all up your arm, and then it'll stop, and then it becomes body temperature, and then you can't even tell there's water on your hand because there's no motion associated with it because it's just stuck in that one spot. It doesn't exert any weight on your skin. It's the same temperature. So you just don't even know it, and so you'll have water globs on you and just not notice until something gets wet,
or somebody smells you if it's sweat.
That's true. That's true. It's polite to just hand them a towel.
All right, we're coming up on T-minus 1 hour and 50 minutes. So far, a smooth countdown. We saw Crew-11 at T-minus 4 hours get suited up. They left the astronaut crew quarters about 20 minutes away from here, got into their Teslas, rode out to the pad after saying goodbye to their family members. Under security escort, drove by the vehicle assembly building on the way, which is housing currently a moon rocket scheduled for launch of that crew, a test flight around the moon in early next year. And then they made it to this launch pad 39A, where in a little under 2 hours they will lift off bound for the International Space Station with an instantaneous window of 12:09 and 24 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. We're keeping an eye on the weather. Locally showing a lot of promise as it's a sunny day, a very hot July day here in Florida, as they typically are this time of year. But the winds have kicked up just a bit. You can see that in the texture on the Atlantic Ocean there. And the launch weather officer is monitoring winds, expected to increase right around the T0. So as Nick pointed out earlier, that's an important criteria, a launch criteria that they have to monitor so that the launch escape system can operate properly. That would take them out over the Atlantic Ocean. Winds need to be in the right direction and the right strength in order for that system to operate correctly. We're also looking at launch weather here, or rather around the world, along the ascent corridor, where there are areas where, just in case, just like you, when you aborted, there was an area for you to go on land because Soyuz lands on land. With Dragon, you have abort locations along the eastern seaboard and then beyond?
Yeah, you know, effectively it's all the way up the East Coast, and then kind of your last opportunity that you would need, because you'll be in orbit at that point any further on, is just off the coast of Ireland. And so we watch the weather, we watch the sea states. We make sure that, you know, if we needed to go and pick up a crew because they had to abort and they landed in one of those zones, that the search and rescue forces will be able to get into those locations, that the weather's going to be support that kind of operation. And so weather's a little more complex when it comes to spaceflight. You've got to take a global perspective and prepare for all those different contingencies.
We've got the split screen there with Crew-11 on the inside. That camera with a prominent shot of pilot Mike Fink's knees, dead center. But the rest of the crew is also there. To Mike Fink's, to screen left is mission specialist Oleg Platonov. To Fink's left, to our right, moving right to the two positions, would be our commander, Zena Cardman. And to the far, far right, next to the window, is Kimia Yui.
There's a lot of rights and lefts there, Daryl.
Yeah.
We need some on-screen graphics to make it.
Yes, I think you're right about that. And so after you're done here today, we will be drafting you into our production team.
Oh, okay, great.
Nick. We could use the help. No, we've got a great team that does a great job, but I do appreciate that.
You know, you can make out below the crew cargo.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so there's cargo supplies for them, but there's also science that they bring up, as well as survival equipment. So there's 3 pallets that are below those 4 seats that are chock full of gear.
And the red one is like, that's like first aid kit, possibly?
Your red one is the life raft.
Life raft, okay.
Yeah. So we showed a clip of that in the NBL at the very beginning, where you throw that out and there's a bottle. As you throw it, the rope will extract and then eventually pulls on a bottle that inflates it, and that's what they were crawling inside of in the NBL for training.
It also looked like they had water wings.
Personal flotation devices, yes.
They looked like water wings to me, Nick.
Yes, yes. You know, we train for that kind of thing, so it's a standard you have to meet to be able to, all of you, go from this configuration they're in right now to put on the personal flotation device and get out of the capsule in 90 seconds.
Well, their destination when they launch at 12:09 p.m. Eastern Time is the International Space Station, or ISS. This will be commemorating a significant anniversary on November 2nd. When we get to that date, we will have had 25 years of continuous human presence aboard this orbiting laboratory.
Liftoff. International Space Station is underway.
We are in the golden age of the space station right now in terms of the return on investment and what we're able to do there.
One of the great legacies of the space station is not just going to be science, but very importantly, the international cooperation. This is perhaps most prominent, international cooperation for exploration.
Миссия на МТС. Евросоюз. Драгон.
Five years, you know, every roughly 6 months or so, a crew doing a rotational mission with a handover, and it's been a thrill to be a part of those rotational missions. To be able to just watch the evolution of science and see how we're learning how to really utilize the laboratory to its full potential. I don't know where those clouds came from. They need to blow away. So the crew's sitting in there, T-minus 1 hour and 42 minutes. This is the moment where crew is sitting in there and you don't have a lot to do except reflect. You know, the next big events are when you arm the launch escape system at about 45 minutes, T-minus 45. Prop load will start about T-minus 35. That's when there's activity and you start to bring in focus. Now it's a time-honored tradition in space flight to have to endure long moments of waiting for big things to happen. That's a better view. I don't see the clouds.
И прожираем пешки. Тут ускорение. Да.
And right now, I'd like to hand it over to Mission Control. The team at Johnson Space Center is tying in with us. How are you guys doing?
Hey Nick, hey Daryl, we're doing good over here. This is Mission Control Houston in the International Space Station's Flight Control Room at NASA's Johnson Space Center. The team continues to prepare for launch and is being led today by Flight Director Scott Stover. Today we will be launching the 11th rotational crew mission to the International Space Station under the agency's commercial crew program. Following Crew-11's arrival, the space station will have a total of 11 crew members represented by 3 different agencies aboard for just a few days. Once on board, Crew-11 will go over a brief handover period and procedures with the off-going Crew-10, including a safety briefing and orientation, and then the new crew will jump right in to help advance scientific knowledge and demonstrate new technologies. After a few days of handover activities, the members of Crew-10 will prepare for their undocking and return to Earth. Direct handovers between crews allow for continuity of the activities and helps to ensure a continuous U.S. presence on the space station, which is about to celebrate 25 years of continuous presence in November. Ahead of Crew-10's return, JAXA astronaut Takuya Onishi will turn over command of the space station to Roscosmos cosmonaut Sergei Ryzhikov. The space station is currently in Expedition 73, and in the fall, NASA astronaut Chris Williams and Roscosmos cosmonaut Sergei Kudzverchkin and Sergei Mikhailov will join the on-orbit crew. Shortly after the departure of the Soyuz MS-27 with NASA astronaut Johnny Kim, coming home will mark the commencement of Expedition 74, which will be led by the new commander, Mike Fink. All of this, of course, coming up after today's launch. We continue with the countdown, and with under 2 hours before launch, we'll send it back over to the Kennedy Space Center. Daryl and Nick?
Thank you very much, Sandra. Back here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, T-minus 1 hour and 38 minutes and counting until liftoff of Crew-11 aboard a Falcon 9 rocket. The spacecraft Endeavour, the flight leader currently in the fleet of Dragon spacecraft. It is a lovely day here in Florida. You're looking up in the skies now, and as typical for this time of year, starting to get a little cumulus clouds forming as the cool sea breeze makes its way over land, encountering the warm air here in Florida. Hot and humid air. So we are expecting to get a few cumulus clouds. That was a minor concern for weather. We are still 90% go, but that 10% was for cumulus clouds, and we're starting to see them forming in our shots around the pad. But we're not expecting that to be clumped over top of the pad at T0, so we're still 90% go. One of the first things Crew-11 did, they came together as a team, and they designed this patch that you see here. This is a tradition for all spaceflight missions, human spaceflight missions, and science missions. Design a mission patch. And this is the one for Crew-11. The colors of this patch, celebrating the 3 nations they represent. And the 3 stars that you see there, the ones with a starburst, they honor their space agencies working together, the 3 of them, NASA, Roscosmos, and JAXA. The 2 sunbeams that you see coming from the upper right, shining down, well, they make the number 11, shining on a tiny blue dot, our home on Earth. The Dragon looks on, of course, a nod to both the spacecraft and the spirit of exploration, while a red flame wraps around it all, symbolizing the full journey, launch, life in space, and a safe return home. And if you look closely, you can see a tribute to their children in the stars. This is a reminder that the missions like this, as we know, when we got the question from 8-year-old Knox earlier, they help to inspire the next generation. Appreciate all those young folks who get the bug for space knowledge and to learn about space and exploration, which requires a good foundation in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Yeah, it all starts with education. I think children grow up inherently curious. I mean, we've been there and we've asked why, and we've all been in the position where we've had you know, someone sit there and just continue to ask why. That's really what we're doing on the station with all of our research, all of our exploration. We're asking the question why in a bunch of different ways and trying to find the answers. That we're just wired that way.
Mm. It is so true. And speaking of kids, kids are on the mind of some of our crew members. Talking about Oleg Platonov. He has a child whose toy he is bringing aboard the International Space Station, taking one of his kids' toys so that it will be a spaceflight flown toy when it comes back down to Earth, along, of course, with pictures and some other artifacts. But each one of the crew members gets to take something up, and that's what Oleg's taking.
Yeah. So I hope it's not his kid's favorite toy.
Yeah,
because he's going to be without it for a while. No, but
that might cause more of a problem on Earth.
But it's something absolutely that Oleg's child's going to just cherish the rest of his life, and having the opportunity to bring up little things to be able to give as mementos to friends and family is huge.
Oleg's fellow mission specialist, Kimya Yui, well, he's bringing a lot of pictures of family, friends, and colleagues. And one of the pictures he's going to take up, he's going to then give back to the people who gave him the photos. So that's a touching thing. We talked earlier in the show about what Mike Fink is bringing up. He's bringing up a Gamasa from the state of Assam. He, of course, said in a press conference recently, he's been married 25 and a half years. To a wife, his wife of Indian origin, and the Gamasa is a silk scarf that carries with it the blessings for his trip to the ISS from her side of the family, and he's taken one not only on this mission, but he's taken that Gamasa on all 3 of his previous missions as well.
Yeah, good luck charm. I'd stick with it. It's working well for him.
That's right. Whatever you took on your first